Welcome to Zach and Steve.
Podcast.
I'm Steve.
I'm Zach.
Good job, buddy.
Thanks.
Hey, Zachy.
I thought there was a thing we were doing.
Well, that's for next week.
Oh,
That's for the anniversary episode, which is June 2nd. I listened to both of our podcasts from the past couple weeks because we pre-recorded because we were going our separate ways. That sounds like we're having personal issues. We've gone our separate ways. Zach and I are no longer in the same room. We're recording separately. In fact, all of our responses will be like normal because I'm just going to say a bunch of stuff, take a pause. Zach will say a bunch of stuff and take a pause. And we're going to see if it meshes.
Yeah.
That's our plan.
That's Zach and Steve have a podcast in a nutshell.
That's been the formula and format for almost 1 year. This is our penultimate episode of this season.
Of this season,
Yeah,
one more.
Not forever.
No.
We'll see.
At least.
We'll see if Zach makes it back from his trek to Alaska.
Yeah, and you make it back from the great northern Canada. I guess they're both great.
Great Northern Canada, as opposed to the lesser Southern.
I guess you would be in the lesser southern.
You wanted to say the Great White North.
Yes, I did. But
Which refers to like the snowiness of everything
correct.
and polar bears.
Yes.
There's polar bears everywhere.
No, there's not.
I think there are. I don't think we see them.
They're invisible.
Because you've heard.
They're invisible everywhere else except in Canada.
Apparently.
Or also Alaska. Sometimes they're up there.
I will say this. Yeah, they're everywhere. Like polar bears are very good at stealth mode.
Yeah.
And
they're like Bigfoot.
They can also adapt to their surroundings. So a polar bear in eastern Ohio and western Pennsylvania is brown and green
Oh.
to blend in with the trees.
So it's got like that active camouflage.
It's got active camouflage. It's like the dinosaur in Jurassic World.
Yeah. So
It can camouflage itself.
So a polar bear really has nothing to do with like being cold and white or anything.
No,
it's just because when you see them up in Alaska, they have white because they're Canada.
That's what it is. It's
they blend in.
It's not polar as in cold. It's polar as in opposite.
Yes, that makes complete sense.
They're polarizing creatures, Zach. That's what they are. Anyway, Zach.
Yeah, Stevie.
I forget what we had going on for the past couple weeks. Why we couldn't get together? You had something going on. Did you have like a zoo
I had to go
trip?
to the zoo.
Did you see a polar bear?
They did not. I didn't see one.
See, that's the thing.
Zoo.
That's the thing.
That's true. I'm starting to think about.
Do you remember seeing a polar bear?
I didn't see
because they have one in every exhibit.
That's true. It's just hiding in the background.
They're always there.
Yeah. No, I didn't see it.
They camouflage.
Yeah.
They can also camouflage as other animals.
So if it like walks in front of the other animal, you don't see the animal for a moment.
It's not. No. They become other animals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So they just like more.
When you see that, when you see that rabbit gnaw your leg off,
it's
an actual polar bear.
That's where the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers came from. They're all polar bears.
Animorphs.
Animorphs.
You remember that book series?
Yes, I did.
It was really dumb.
Yeah,
it was a really bad book series. This is almost as dumb as this conversation.
Yeah, so we went to the Cleveland
Zoo.
You
went to the Cleveland Zoo.
It was the first time I had been on a school bus in about 20 years.
Yeah. Tell me
it was a terrible experience.
How's that knee room in the school bus?
There's not any.
Who designed those things?
It's like, let's put 3 more seats than actually should be on this bus.
What psychopath designed a school bus so that your knees are jutting into the back of somebody in front of you?
Yeah, so the actual seat material itself has a little bit of give. So your knees kind of go in a little bit.
And what is that material? Like vinyl?
Yeah, it's vinyl.
Rubber flat vinyl?
Yes.
I don't know.
It's the thing they make the space shuttle
It smells. School buses always smell bad.
Yes, it's the combination of whatever the school bus smell is.
It's foot stink.
Feet and...
Oh, gosh. It's 7th grade BO.
Yeah.
Or they're coming to realize I probably need antiperspirant.
Yes, they're coming to the age.
Yes. So, Zach...
we were on the bus, and I didn't plan this out very well.
Yeah.
So all of the other leaders on the group were all women, and then there was me.
Well, it was supposed to be Laura.
It was supposed to be Laura, but something happened. She had something come up that she couldn't go on the field trip.
Yes.
So they needed the extra leader, and I have clearances because I did the flying thing with the play. Remember? The play,
so yeah, you said flying thing, and I immediately I'm like, I see you in the air
in an airplane. No, so I had
just in the air flying.
Because
I see you in the air flying.
You're not supposed to tell people I'm a superhero, Steven. That's my secret identity that you just let out of the bag.
I meant falling with style.
Yeah. So I have my clearances because of that.
Yes, of
and
course.
they're like, "Oh, Laura can't go. Zach can go." I'm
Of
like,
course.
yeah, he doesn't work Fridays, other than doing the podcast and the church.
I think Laura just like signing you up for things.
She signs me up for everything. So yes, so I'm on this trip. So there's all the other women in the front of the bus, and then all the kids are in the back, and there's like a 4-gap seat between any kids and the leaders. I'm like, I'm gonna go back here because I feel like we need some sort of that's our job, right?
You're supposed to chaperone.
So I go back and I happen to get the seat that's got the wheel well, and I forgot that was even a thing on a bus.
You sat on the hump seat?
I did. So not only is there no room for my legs to begin with, now I'm on the hump seat.
How many kids were on this trip?
There was the whole 4th grade.
At West Middlesex?
Yeah. So there was
25 kids?
There was 2. Yeah. It's not a very big school.
I wasn't being mean.
I think there's about 60 kids in this class.
There's that
so
many.
There might have been 30 kids on the bus and the adult leaders. So I was sitting there, and we got 15 minutes into the trip, and I thought I was going to throw up from the smell.
No way.
Bouncing.
Yeah, dude. I hate school buses.
It was awful.
We used to take school buses up to Cedar Point, like early on. We don't do that no more.
We ride in style.
We take a coach.
Yeah.
Coach buses only.
So we got to the zoo, and it was good. We had enough leaders that there was only 3 students in my group. It was my son and 2 other boys. And my only job was to make sure that they got back to the rendezvous point at the end of the day. And they had fun along the way.
So no mishaps at the zoo?
Yes. They can't get eaten by anything. They can't find the...
No, I said you didn't have any mishaps at the zoo.
We didn't have too many.
Not too many?
So the first place... Okay. Have you ever been to the Cleveland Zoo?
Yes. Can I tell you about my experience going to Cleveland Zoo?
After I'm done.
Okay, go ahead.
So there's the main part of the zoo, and then the rainforest is like it's like not in the main zoo. The rainforest exhibit. It's outside. And so the kids want to start the rainforest exhibit first. Whatever. We go across the road to the rainforest exhibit. But they had to carry their lunches. Their teacher was very mean on this topic. They're like, you have to carry your own lunch, and you have to carry it around the park until you eat it.
That's so the bus driver doesn't eat all the lunches.
Yes, exactly. Doyle rules,
they've run into this before.
Yes. So we're carrying our lunch, and we get to the rainforest exhibit, and it's an inside exhibit.
Yeah.
And there's a big sign on the door that says no food or drink inside. So
what?
So now we've got our lunches. We've already made a decision we're going over here. So there happened to be a little dining area outside of the rainforest exhibit. So we go sit down at the dining area, and we're like, what is that smell? There is a horrendous smell. I mean, we're in Cleveland, so I mean, it could be anything,
it already
right?
Smells.
It already
it's
smells.
The Browns.
So we look, and so it's an outside seating area. On the other side of it, you can hear like running water. And we look, and there's a big sign that says raw sewage.
Oh!
It was right by the seat where you eat outside. There's like a little cafe inside. There's the Rainforest Cafe.
So awesome.
So much Cleveland. So we're sitting there.
Can we talk about how awesome Cleveland is just in general?
It smelled so bad.
Because that conversation would last all of 2 seconds. Yeah. I'm talking about how awesome Cleveland is.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. How awesome Cleveland is.
It's not.
It's terrible.
That's it. It's done. Yeah, it's the worst.
Yeah. So other than that, I had the 2 boys. We all made it back safe, except at one point where we're by the rhinoceros exhibit. All right.
Okay.
and the one boy goes, "Hey," and I look, and there is blood everywhere.
What?
I'm like, what is going on? Why is there? And he was like, I've got a bloody nose, and he's got blood pouring out of his nose. It's all over his shirt, all over the ground.
I thought you meant in the exhibit. There was blood everywhere.
There's blood all over the boy. I'm trying to take watch. My chaperone responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. So we had to go and the restroom, and he had to take care of his bloody nose. This happens all the time.
So good.
But yeah, we were done. And it looks like our group had a fight with a wolf or something. Because the one kid's got blood, he had a thing up his nose, got blood down the front.
Yeah, I thought you meant like a rhino had been attacked by another animal. No. Or like one rhino gored another rhino.
The polar bear got it. That's exactly, yeah.
That was probably it.
Yeah.
How do we know that the polar bear didn't give that?
That's why the little boy had the bloody nose.
Yeah, I was going to say, the polar bear definitely gave him a bloody nose.
Yeah, he didn't see it. He
smacked him.
Into it. Yeah.
Smacked him with a Coke bottle.
Yeah. So what about your Cleveland Zoo?
Well, I just remember going when I haven't been there in a number of years, but I went with a friend of mine back when we were in 4th grade. Like that's
must be a fourth grade thing.
Must be a fourth grade thing. So, but I remember distinctly. So it was a friend of mine, and his dad was a terrible driver.
Oh, nice.
Terrible driver. All right, and this is I'm not making fun of because his father was a very sweet man, and so this is nothing about him personally, but he was a shorter individual.
Okay.
And like he did not see over the steering wheel
very
well. I'm dead serious when I say that. That's not mocking this gentleman. I loved him. He was such a good, sweet
speaking
guy.
Truth of what this
situation just kind of give you. And he drove, not exaggerating, down the middle of the highway, almost the entire way, going 15 miles under the speed limit.
Oh wow!
It felt like that trip took 4 hours to get to the Cleveland Zoo, which should probably take about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
If you're driving at a normal speed.
Yeah.
We were going 15 miles an hour down the middle. People are honking and going around us, one after the other. And he's just getting mad at them. He's like, "What?" And I'm like, I'm 10 or whatever. I'm just like, "Oh my goodness, so I just want to go home."
Is this like where your anxiety stems from, this trip to the zoo?
No, I think my anxiety just stems from childhood. In general, just in general, it was really funny because I'll tell that story in a second. But yeah, I remember having a really good time at the Cleveland Zoo. Back then, they had these things called, it was like these keys that you could wear around your neck, like as like a necklace at the Cleveland Zoo, and you put this key into the slots at each animal exhibit, and it would tell you a story, but you had to buy them. So if you wanted to hear about the animals, you had to buy the key pass, and then you could plug it into all the things, and it would talk to you and tell you all the stuff. So I remember having a good time.
Yeah.
Except for the driving aspect of it. And then you know what the really weird thing is? I don't remember driving home.
You didn't drive home.
I don't know how I got home.
You called your parents.
I must have. I wonder if my dad was like, I'm coming. Don't let him drive you anymore. Because, back then we had cell phones and stuff too, at 10.
You know what we should do for our podcast?
What?
We should do a live show.
Live from the Cleveland Zoo?
Pick a zoo. Whatever zoo we want. And we could interview animals. We could get their sounds, and then we could laugh at them because that's what we do. We laugh at the animals.
You probably haven't seen this, but on Saturday Night Live, Andy Samberg is playing. He's supposed to be Mark Wahlberg, and he's talking to the animals.
No, I've never seen.
And it's like, now it's time for Mark Wahlberg talks to animals. It's like, hey, how's it going there? You having a good day?
That'd be us.
How's your say hello to your mother for me. That was like how he ended every conversation with each one of the animals. Hey, you're a donkey. You go hee-haw. Say hi to your mother for me. It's just the dumbest thing. That's what I think of. Like
that's what came to your mind.
Talking to the animals. That's automatically what came to my mind. So anyway, yeah, we went to. I went while we were, on our little 2-week. I mean, it wasn't really a hiatus because we still had episodes. But I went to Atlanta, Georgia, with some of the members of the worship team. And Pastor Jeremy, he oversees the entire worship team. We went down to Atlanta to Passion City Church, where they had this thing called the Creative Conference, and it was honestly one of the best experience. I think when we talk about like just things God's doing in our lives in the second half of this, I really want to incorporate a lot of the things that I got to take away from that, because it was it's another one of those situations where it was refreshing in a lot of ways. So we had a really good time. It was just a really good team building kind of thing. It was great, but also like the things that God did through the individuals that spoke, and like with messages and breakouts and the worship. It was exactly what my heart needed.
Yeah.
Just to feel a little bit restored and refreshed. Because sometimes you just need that little extra boost. Like I'm not saying that God's not enough, but God could use things to do something extra. But Zach, on our way.
On your way there or back?
Both.
Okay.
Something magical happened, Zach.
Let's see. If I'm thinking magical. I don't even want to try to spoil this. I know.
You know what I'm going to say, Zach.
What are you doing right now?
What
is that thing?
I don't know.
It's like the hook 'em horns thing with your fingers.
Well, yeah, it has to do with Texas. Zach, you go ahead. What was the magical experience I had?
Well, I don't think I can accurately portray the magic of this because I wasn't there to experience.
No, you weren't.
The
I don't even know if I could.
Entity that stole the heart of your wife.
Now, that is unfair and unfounded, Zach. You can't just go around throwing that around. Even though every time I mention his name, my wife is like, "Yeah, we should go back." And it sounds like I'm putting my wife on blast for something heinous. We're talking about something very innocent. Innocent. Yeah. Yes. So this
what you just put in your mouth?
I put Bucky mint in my mouth because I'm about to talk about Buc-ee's. All right. So Zach, on our way down, and on our way back, on our itinerary, because we had an itinerary for this trip. It was very impressive. The last stop was Buc-ee's.
So it said it on your itinerary?
On the thing, it said, we're going to Buc-ee's. We're probably going to eat dinner there.
What is Buc-ee's?
Buc-ee's, Zach, is one of the greatest things ever created. All right? And this is going to sound ridiculous, but it's a rest stop / truck stop / fill up your tank kind of place.
/ Walmart.
Okay. Buc-ee's is a convenience store on steroids. And then those steroids took more steroids. All right? That's not an exaggeration. I didn't know what I was expecting. Because, I mean, okay, so just to paint a little bit of a picture, when you're on, I think we were on 71 South or?
I don't know. I'm not
71 South going down towards Atlanta.
Yeah.
You start seeing these signs at like 50 miles where it's like, hey, Buc-ee's.
What is Buc-ee?
Well, Buc-ee is a beaver.
Okay.
And I actually have a bunch of facts about Buc-ee's. We'll get into that. I'm going to test your knowledge.
Of Buc-ee?
Of Buc-ee.
Of Buc-ee the beaver or just beavers in general?
No, not beavers in general.
That'd be
a great game. Yeah. No, that's not the game. So it starts seeing signs, and they're all like clever. Yeah, let's get the potty started. Kind of clever things. Okay, so one of the things that Buc-ee's is known for is having the cleanest bathrooms of any truck stop in the United States.
So this is an official thing. There's like a survey.
It's not a survey.
Scientifically, people go in there and take samples.
Okay, no, it's actually so you know the company Cintas?
Yeah.
That does like
Oh, sure, I know all about Cintas.
Okay, so Cintas rated Buc-ee's the cleanliest bathrooms in the entire United States for rest stops.
Nice.
And they said they're the best, and they're also the largest. So Zach was not exaggerating when he said that Buc-ee's is the size of a Walmart. The current largest Buc-ee's is 68,000 square feet.
That's pretty big.
That's massive, Zach. That's a huge store. It's a convenience store.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's just a massive convenience store.
This has made a divine impact on you.
It has. I don't know if I'll ever look at a gas station the same ever again.
You got back like over a week ago.
I got so much Buc-ee's stuff.
And all you've been doing is talking about Buc-ee's.
I can't stop, Zach. I can't stop. I got mints that are Buc-ee themed. I just put a couple in my mouth right this second. I have a hat. I have a coffee mug. That's what I drank my coffee from this morning.
The first thing I saw when you came back is you had a new hat, and it had this weird beaver logo on it.
It's Buc-ee, man. Buc-ee has changed everything.
But you wanted to get your picture with Buc-ee.
I got my picture. So at the back up. We got to back up. I got to paint the fuller picture here, Zach. Right. So on Wednesday morning, we took off for Atlanta. We finally get to the final stop, which we went to the Buc-ee's that was in Tennessee.
Okay.
Just outside of Georgia. Am I boring you?
I'm falling asleep.
Yawning? Yeah. Oh, I'll throw a mint into your mouth.
All right. That'll work.
There we go. So I forgot what I was doing because you did that you timed that so well. You made a weird sound and you're like So we get to this Buc-ee's. And listen, look up Buc-ee's.
Yeah.
This is magical. All right. Anyway. Zach, guess how many pumps they have at a Buc-ee's?
I know the answer.
Give me the answer.
100 some.
There's 120 pumps at a Buc-ee's.
That's a lot of pumps.
120 pumps for gas.
That's a lot.
That's how big this place is. Then you go inside and everything's Buc-ee themed. Like that that logo is everywhere. Now we got there at around probably 7:00 for dinner. We roll in. Zach, they have a smoked meats section. They smoke brisket and like pulled pork, all kinds of stuff on site.
There you go.
You can just grab a sandwich, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, it's wild. They have one of the largest beef jerky sections in the entire world.
Wow.
I don't think you can't appreciate it because you didn't get this. If you would have saw this, Zach, you'd be singing its praises as I am. And once again, the cleanest bathrooms I have ever seen in my entire life.
I'm happy for you.
There's also a polar bear.
Well, yes, it had to be there. That's what Bucky is.
Bucky's actually a polar bear
that you can see.
Yes. So anyway, but we had a great time. So on the way back, we decided we're going to stop at Bucky's two more times.
So you went to Bucky 3 times?
We stopped at Bucky's for breakfast and then again for lunch.
Nice.
On our way back. One in Tennessee and then one in Kentucky. The one in Kentucky is bigger than the one that was in Tennessee.
Wow.
And the biggest one is opening next year.
Oh.
In Lubbock, Texas.
Oh.
It is 75,000 square feet.
That's huge.
So they added.
What would they put in there?
6,000 more square feet.
An amusement park.
I think there is.
Yeah.
I think there is.
So
there's apartments.
I want to hear how this whole interaction went with your wife.
So, okay. So on our way back, around lunchtime, we stopped at the one in Kentucky. And it is jamming.
Yeah.
So the first 2 times that we went to Bucky's on the way down and then again for breakfast, there was really not a lot of people. I'd say like 50.
Yeah.
Maybe 50-ish people in there. I was like, okay. Kind of what I expected. Maybe 100. Zach, on our way at lunchtime on a Saturday in Kentucky, there's clearly nothing else going on in the state. All right? Everybody was there. Yeah. I bet if there was 1,000 people there, I would not be surprised at all. I mean, it was crawling with people. You could barely move. It was so tight. And that store is massive.
Okay.
So anyway, on Saturdays, they bring out the Bucky mascot. It's the guy in the costume, in the Bucky costume. He comes on out and takes pictures with the fans.
Yeah.
All right. And he's popular.
Okay.
We had to wait in line to get our picture taken with Bucky.
Okay.
So anyway, so Sarah and I got separated for a minute because I got
beef jerky.
I did not get beef jerky. I have a tooth problem. It's a long story. But anyway, I didn't get beef jerky, but no, I think I got. Sarah's like, how much stuff did you buy from Bucky's? I'm like, I don't even know at this point. So I just kept finding stuff. I'm like, I gotta have this. This is like way too cool because it's just so stupid, like in the grand scheme of things. But I saw the mascot. I'm like, oh my goodness, I gotta get my picture taken with this mascot. But then I thought to myself, I'm like, Sarah will be really upset.
Yeah, you gotta do it with your wife.
Exactly, right,
yeah.
Zach?
You do it together.
That's
in my mind, that's a picture that's framed. It's up here in the office.
Yeah. Me,
your beautiful bride, and Bucky.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it should be.
Right.
So, I was like, I'm gonna wait until I see Sarah and we'll go. So soon enough, a couple of minutes later, I'm talking to a couple other people on the trip, and I see Sarah come running, skipping over, like, as excited as can be. She's like, "Look at this!" And she has a selfie of her and Bucky. And they're touching. In the picture, Jeremy thought this was the funniest thing in the world. It looks like they're touching fingers.
It was that magic moment.
Yeah, it was. It was like this magic moment, like that. So anyway, so that became like the whole joke.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the way back is that my wife now loves Bucky more than she loves me.
Yeah.
But and I'm coming to terms with it. I'm working through some things. Yeah. It's just a big joke. But we had such a good time. It was really, really nice experience, and I can't wait to kind of share some of the stuff that we got to experience on at the conference itself. So unless you have something else, Zach, I think we could just move right into the next segment.
Yeah, I think let's move.
Hey, when we come back, part 2, we're going to talk about things God is doing in and through us. See you in a minute.
Hey, welcome back to our Steve. I got a question for you.
Yes.
Your allergies been bothering you.
My allergies have been horrible this year, man.
You look a little bit drowsy over there.
I'm super drowsy. I'm so drowsy over here.
We were just joking before we came back in. You said you were drowsy. You were either because you're either sneezy or drowsy. I said, so I got the 7 dwarfs coming on over here.
You call me dopey.
Yeah. So the only one you're not is happy.
I would never be happy at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a pretty happy guy. I'm not. I think it's kind of a joke that I'm not a happy person, but I think I'm a relatively happy person.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. So Zach, I wanted to talk to you about just like we've been talking a lot about things we see God doing in us. Are you okay now?
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
Your eyes went butterfly mode. What just happened?
Taking it all in.
What?
I don't know. My eyes are dry.
Okay, so here's another thing. I mean, before we jump right into our topic, my wheeze.
What?
My wheeze?
Your wheeze?
I didn't realize I had a wheeze.
You have a wheeze.
I have a wheezy laugh.
Whenever you start laughing, I think that's everybody who listens to our podcast. That's the favorite part of the podcast is when Steve starts laughing.
I don't know, man. I hate my laugh.
No, I like it. Everybody loves your laugh.
I don't like your deep eye contact and saying, "No, I like it."
That's why I was fluttering my eyes at you, Steve.
You're batting your eyelashes at me. Oh, I like it. You got allergies too? Yeah.
Anyway. There goes the Steve wheeze off mic. You all right?
No. I'm gonna be okay.
All right.
Something struck me as silly.
All right, you back?
No.
What happens when Steve takes Benadryl?
Oh, I'm feeling a little floaty. Yeah, it's like I can't stop sneezing. I've been sneezing nonstop for weeks, it feels like. And like with my back the way that it is, it hurts. It's so painful every time I sneeze.
That is true. That's the worst.
Yeah, so it's like I can't stop. I've always had this thing where if I start sneezing, it almost becomes I can't stop it. I'll sneeze like 20, 30 times in a row.
Yeah. And
it just gets painful, more and more painful, to the point where I'm exhausted by the time I'm done sneezing because my whole body is just like, no more, no more.
Shows how in shape we are as humans. Because I'm the same way. I get sneezing fits, and you're right. If you sneeze several times in a row, you are just wiped.
I'm exhausted. I'm like, is this like a full body workout?
It is, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We should go into business. We'll call it
sneezing. We just blow pepper into people's faces.
Yes.
You ready to work out?
And they just sneeze.
And then they're sneezing. And we'll up the ante. If they want like a hard workout, it'll be cayenne pepper.
Nice.
Or just black pepper.
Or
we'll have them, or we could just have them eat some wasabi.
Yeah. I think if we used all of the ideas we have while we're podcasting, we would no longer have to podcast.
We're going to be billionaires one day, Zach.
What was the one with
after we steal $1 billion, we're going to be billionaires.
And our mascot can be the Gateway Flipper.
Gateway Flipper.
Yeah.
You think he'd give kids rides?
Yeah, he would. Yeah.
Gateway Flipper would give kids rides?
Yeah. They could ride in on the Gateway Flipper.
He's the only black and gold.
We would blow pepper in their face.
This is what is happening. I feel like
they would leave.
This feels like a fever dream. Like this doesn't seem real right now, and I'm a little concerned that I'm not actually here. All right, Zachy.
Yes.
Went to this conference.
Yeah, tell me about it.
It was honestly, it was very good for the heart and the soul, and I mean that in the most sincere way. Because I will say this: I'm always skeptical going into a conference.
Yeah.
Because I've had really good experiences with conferences, and I've had really awful experiences with conferences. Yeah. And what I mean by awful is sometimes it feels like they're just trying to sell you something. Like they present it as, oh yeah, come and we're gonna like help reinvigorate you and all this stuff. But really, what they're doing is selling a product.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying like in a spiritual sense, like they're trying to sell you on something.
They want to make money.
They're literally trying to sell you. Like I went to one that was recommended to me. And it was basically to get this curriculum that they put out that is hundreds of dollars a year.
Okay.
If not thousands of dollars a year for this curriculum. And I was like, really? My whole time here has been like revolving around something that I'm gonna have to buy after I spent all this money flying here and like getting a hotel and everything. So I've always been a little skeptical going into these things because I'm like, are they just going to try to sell me on something?
Yeah.
Like, are they just going to try to sell like books or curriculum or whatever? But Pastor Jeremy had been talking this up. He's gone several times before, and I saw the good that he came away from it, and even Laura went last year, and like a lot of the stuff that she brought back from it, and just that team in general, it was so encouraging. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go into this with the most open mind and heart possible, just praying God allow me to just take what I can from this. And I will tell you this, I felt full coming back.
Great.
It was very much a big spiritual meal of sorts, and it was restoring, but it was also reinvigorating in the sense that came back with a lot of fresh and new ideas and an approach to ministry in general. I think that's one of the things like I've been seeing God working on me a lot in the past year is redefining why I do what I do and how I do it. And being I've been trying to be intentional about that because, like I said before, last year I was feeling very, very burnout, spiritually burnout, mentally burnout, because I just had been doing the same thing for a long time, and it was no longer working. And those are the points where you have to say, okay, God, what do you want? What am I supposed to do here? And the easy answer is, well, for me, not God, but for me was just give up. Just give up. This isn't for you anymore. You need to go. You need to go find something else to do and let somebody else do this. And there was definitely a part of me that was like, all right, yeah, I am. I'm what's holding this place back. And I'll get out of the way. I wanted to. I really wanted to just get out of the way. I'm just being honest and sincere here. Because I felt
that was the enemy speaking.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. That's what I was gonna say. That was the enemy, and I was letting him win big time. I was like, yeah, fine, whatever. Because I've always had the mentality: ministry doesn't end with a person ever. Yeah. Like we've seen the church from the time of Jesus' death and resurrection. Yeah, in the very first century of the modern era, the very first century. Till now, the church has never ended, right? The church has only built and grown and gone into the hearts. Thus proving to me that like the Holy Spirit is at work actively, and taking all that and saying the church doesn't end because of a person, right? God's always going to find somebody else to pick it up. And I was at that point where, I was like, all right, it must be time for somebody else to pick up where I've like dropped off and left. Because I was like, I can't, just questioning my calling even, like, okay, maybe I misread this, completely just allowing the enemy to blind me to all the things that God has allowed me to do and be part of and see success for his glory, not for my own. I could care less if I'm successful or notable or anything like that. Yeah. But the reality of it is, it's like, okay, God's like was trying to get my attention and say, all right, I need you to do something different. Yeah. And it's been a year of searching for that. In the past few months of actually realizing it and seeing it happen as I've just trying to change my mind and my heart and my approach to what I do. And then this conference I felt like was the crescendo.
Nice.
To that, right? It was like, all right, like, okay, now I have all these new tools and these like this new mentality. Yeah. What I really liked about Passion City, and I will say this, is like I've never been the biggest Louis Giglio fan as a speaker. As a person, I've always thought he was like awesome. Yeah. Like just you could tell he's just a very sincere individual. Very kind and loving and doing what God is calling him to do. And he's built a massive ministry out of it. It just not even saying because of the church, his church, but out of the Passion movement in general, which has only grown for the past, I think it started in 97. So 25 years, 26 years that's been in existence. We've only seen it build and continue to be an influence on the next generation of young people. Because like what the Passion movement was for a long time was it was like a 3-day conference event for people 18 to 25, and just like kind of reinvigorate them, teach them, give them tools on just how to live out their faith. Then he starts a church. I think like, I don't know if it was 10 years ago, if it's even been that long, start this church. He's doing this work. And what I've come to love about him is that I feel like a lot of these guys that build big churches, you only ever see like the business end of what they're capable of doing. And I'm not trying to like bash anybody, because some people are very good on the business end of things and they're very successful from it. Like I think of guys like Craig Groeschel. I happen to have his book on my table. He writes a lot of self-help books in a way that are for ministry leaders.
Yeah.
I feel like he's very good at helping people understand what it means to be a leader. But sometimes I feel like when people are so good at the business end of things, on the spiritual end of things, and I'm not saying Craig Groeschel is not a spiritual individual or like a good Christ follower, but what you see a lot of times is these guys like kind of negate that, and it's like, this is how you make it work.
Yeah.
What I see with Louis is the balance. And I use that word a lot, balance, because I think we do have to find ourselves in the center of everything, you know, and that's where Christ meets us constantly, is at the center of all things, right? There has to be balance, because it can't just be one thing or the other. It has to be both. And what I mean by that is specifically to ministry is we have to have the heartfelt stuff, and then we have to have the well thought out, well constructed kind of stuff. And that's what I came away learning a lot from, is that there can be a balance of the two, specifically speaking about how they do volunteerism at Passion City, which I love. And they call their volunteers door holders.
That's a good term for them.
It's a great term.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, that's another thing that I loved about the church in general is that they're so intentional about how they label things, how they name things, everything. So a volunteer is not a volunteer. They're a door holder. Why are they a door holder? Well, it's because like it goes out the verse. I'd rather be, oh my goodness, I'd rather be a door keeper or door holder. You know, I'm destroying this thing.
I don't know the verse,
but it's like I'd much rather be a door holder,
a doorkeeper in your house than a king or something like that.
Exactly.
That's the idea.
That's the idea. Is like, because a door holder is letting people into an experience.
Yeah.
So it's not just about me, and that's what they do so well. Nothing is about the individual. It's all about us together. And like their central premise is Jesus is our story. Jesus is the whole story. And that was one of the things that kind of struck me, because I thought about even in my teaching and how I teach the teens and how I approach teaching the teens, is I get so caught up in the minutia of topics and situations and explaining why this should matter to them. I forget to make Jesus the center of the story. Even though like Jesus is the story, I don't make him the center of the story enough.
So for instance, you're going through Paul's writing, and you're focused more on maybe the Christian living aspect.
Exactly. Just how it applies to your life.
Yeah.
Instead of going back to the heart of it, which is Jesus himself.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a bad way of teaching, but it could be better. Yeah. And that's been the other thing is once again recognizing this is the thing God's been trying to get my attention and hold my attention with is that just floated out of my mind completely.
Happens to be all the time, buddy.
Isn't that the worst? Like you're in the middle of a thought and then it's like, whoa, this pops right out of your brain.
It's the word. Do you hear that Mario noise?
No, that's all in your head. No, my whole point is that even though I make Jesus a part of the story and a big part of the story, I don't make him the story, like the central figure of why we do everything that we do. And the other thing that like it kind of like made me think was like, okay, I can't just be okay with it being good and letting it stay good. I have to constantly be thinking about how can I make this better and how can we be better. And I think this is a big part of that. Not saying like that their teachings were central to that, but it was eye-opening to me that I'm not intentional enough about certain things, and we can always do better. And then in a couple years, we're going to have to keep pushing for that because it's not enough to just plateau. You have to always be excelling and pushing for the best, not for ourselves, but for his glory.
Sure.
And those are like some of the things that just really stuck. I mean, there were so many moments that just crushed me. Absolutely crushed me.
Great.
I would say one of the things that really stood out to me, it made me think about the kind of leader that I want to be. Was a breakout that I went to. It was Christian Stanfill, who's like, I mean, he's probably one of the most well-known worship leaders in the country. I mean, Glorious Day is probably, I would imagine that's like his biggest hit. Mm-hmm. And Christian Stanfill was the worship pastor at Passion City Church since its opening.
Yeah.
All right. But then you come to find out in this breakout, and this is, I mean, they made it public through this breakout, so I don't feel like I'm not trying to gossip, but he revealed a very personal struggle that he had gone through. Yeah. And the feeling of isolation and loneliness he felt in that. Yeah. And going through this situation. For him, it was alcohol. Like he talked about it. He's like, I found myself just in this deep state of depression, and I resorted to something that was starting to just consume me. I was consuming it, but it was consuming me, you know? And he said his greatest fear was that he would bring this forward and he would be shamed and he would be pushed away.
Yeah, that's the sad thing about Christians. We're supposed to be loving, but a lot of times we're condemning.
Exactly. And I mean, and I understand his fear in that. Yeah. Because I mean, people do usually like, how could you? Yeah. I would never thought you would have done this, or, you know, how could somebody of your stature and all the things you've done, like, allow yourself to do this? But the thing is, like, he was very human in bringing it forward. And that was revealing to me because I think we have to be transparent about our shortcomings because we're trying to, like, you know, make something of all of this, right? We're trying to use our story and tell other people about how God has seen us through it. But the other thing that spoke to me in this was, so this breakout was actually him. It was he and Louis Giglio.
Okay, together.
Louis sits down. Yeah, it was almost like an interview format. Christian does not strike me as once again, this is not, but he was not going to be one that would get up there and just teach a lesson. Like, he doesn't have that kind of personality. So he needs somebody to, like, kind of keep the conversation going. And so Louis asking him questions and all that kind of stuff. And then Christian would do a few songs that he wrote about his experience and all that, and like how just God was changing his heart and his life. But the amazing thing about, and Sarah talked about this past Sunday, the amazing thing about our seats, or we were in the front row, but off to the wayside. Mm-hmm. So we had this weird side view of the stage. But from our side, all you could see was Louis looking at Christian as he played this song, and the tears that filled his eyes and this love that he had for this young man who Christian thought would not understand or condemn him or never look at him the same way. Right. And the only thing that I saw was the love
in Louis' face.
Exactly. Yeah. And that to me was probably one of the biggest teaching moments of the entire thing. Not even an intentional teaching moment, but the things that, like, getting our hearts set on the right things, and it's loving people through hard times, right? Because, you know, we think that as you know, that as believers, especially, that if I fall short, people are going to judge me, and they're never going to look at me the same way, and so I'm going to isolate, and I'm going to allow the enemy to, like, make me believe that I'm not a good person. Because of this, and that nobody will ever understand, and that I'll never be forgiven. And that's like how the enemy destroys us, because he isolates us and makes like, just reinforces these ideas like, nobody's going to understand this. You're alone. Yeah. You are alone. You have to bear this burden the rest of your life, like, by yourself, or until you figure your way out of it. And then, you know, but God's like, no, like, people that know me and understand me are going to love you through it. And that was one of the things that Louis talked about. Like, so he got that phone call from him, and, you know, and Christian's terrified that he's going to lose his job, and everything. And he's like, no, I love you, and I'm going to help you through this. Right. It wasn't like, it's okay. It was okay, I understand. What are we going to do to fix it? And how can I help you fix it? Yeah. Man, that's got to be our hearts in ministry. Yeah. In general, with everyone. I mean, but especially Christians.
Sure.
like, I mean, we have to present that to everybody. But like we as Christians, and a lot of people get this idea that as a Christian, I have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And while we should be striving to be the best that we can be for the glory of God, to understand we're also human. We're going to make mistakes. We don't actively make mistakes or make choices that are bad because we're like, oh, God will forgive me. Like that's not proper.
Right.
But understand that, yeah, we're going to get tempted sometimes, and sometimes we're going to fall short because we're weak.
Yeah.
But ultimately, God will forgive us. So don't let the enemy convince you, but you have to do something about it.
Yeah.
And you have to have a team of people around you that are going to carry you through. Because he wasn't saying like Louis not like his main accountability partner, but he's somebody that, he really values his opinion and his input in his life. But he has like 3 guys that are in his life. And it's actually the guy that's now the worship pastor, because part of this was, hey, we think you should probably step back from the role that you're in for you to heal. And that meant him giving up his position as the worship pastor. They have a new worship pastor. It's one of his best friends.
Yeah.
And which was incredible. But he's another guy that's just championing him through it, like helping him through it, loving him through it. And that to me was like, this is the kind of stuff I have to remember in ministry. How I treat others is going to really matter. I mean, that sounds stupid, but because it's like, yeah, how you treat people does matter. But it's like, especially when it comes to people falling short and thinking that they're broken. Like, man, it really does matter. I've said so much that I look at the sound waves, and yours is just it looks like you're like flatlining. It's like you're dead. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. No, as a pastor, you deal with people's bad days every day.
Yep.
And that's the hardest part about the job.
Yes, it is.
That you need to be Christ. I mean, we all need to be Christ, but as a pastor, that's your occupation, right?
Yeah.
So everybody comes to you with whatever it is that they're struggling with. And I'm sure after you've heard the same story 30 times from 30 different people, and they're expecting the same sort of empathy and love that you gave the first person that came through, that as well. That's where the challenge comes in, because, if you, I don't know, if you have one bad interaction, then you're a bad pastor. You're a bad person. So I'm thinking about Louis. I mean, obviously this was his right-hand man forever. So there's that.
One of his guys.
But just the fact, even it doesn't have to be a pastor. It can be just you as a person who's following Christ.
Yeah.
And we all have friends. And I'm going through stuff. They're going through stuff. You're going through stuff. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going through stuff. And we're all going through it together.
Mm-hmm.
And in the midst of us going through whatever it is, the storm in our life,
mm-hmm.
to then love on another person that's going through something as well.
Yep.
That's what it is to be a follower of Christ.
Yeah, it is.
And that's not an easy thing.
That's what it is to be a representation of Christ.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so it can be. My struggle is not as much like hearing the same thing from several different people. It's hearing the same thing from the same person over and over again. That's where my struggle really begins to happen. Like I see that kind of like, okay, how are you not getting this? But it's like, no, you have to have the same attitude. Like, hey, God's got you. Let's do this together. But yeah, it does become hard in ministry, but just in general as believers, like we're humans and we're broken and we're not always going to have the right thing to say, but my goodness, do we have to strive for the best? And like do everything we can to show the love of Jesus Christ, because just because it's the millionth and first person, number 1,000,001,
right?
And you've already dealt with this a million times. It's like one more time, it's got to be the same. And nobody's gonna be perfect at it, but I think that's the thing that we have to like remind ourselves every day, is that I've been saved by His grace and His mercy. This person deserves His grace and mercy, and that I'm an extension of that.
Yeah, I think for me, what I've been dealing with, or what God's been working on my heart over the last week or so, is the exact opposite of what you're experiencing. And that seems to be that's the way that God's working, because we've been doing this the last few times. It seems like when I start talking, it's like, yes, whatever you're dealing with, I'm dealing with the opposite end of the spectrum.
Okay.
And what I struggle with is letting people help me.
You sure?
Yeah. Oh, what'd you say?
I said, yeah, sure.
Oh, I thought you said, for sure. Are you sure? Are
no,
you sure?
Yeah. Well, how you responded to that, I was like, oh, he thinks I said, are you sure?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought you said.
No,
but I'm a kind of just my personality is a loner.
Yeah, you're
Self-reliant, and I don't necessarily like people helping me because as a person who's in the position that I am. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not a pastor, but I'm pastor light.
You're doing ministerial work.
Yeah. But sure, you are pouring out into people's lives.
Sure.
That's what you're doing. So, and maybe you experience the same thing. Sometimes you feel a burden upon you from just that responsibility and just people's issues that they're coming with.
Sure.
It becomes a burden because you're dealing with it as well. So what I don't want is then my issues to be a burden on somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I struggle with that as well, but we all need to share in the burdens that we have in our life because that's the way we're designed to do.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I get this backup in my soul, in my being, because I don't let people help me.
I don't want, I mean, and that's another thing that we allow the enemy to convince us is like, you don't want to be a burden on somebody else.
Yeah. But this last week and just today, I mean, Laura and I have had this is our anniversary today. 16
Happy
years of
anniversary.
Marriage. Yeah. And so we had this big plan, what we're going to be doing this weekend. And my mom was watching the kids.
Sure.
And she just got deathly ill. Like, she's very sick. And she
like, for real? For like sick? Like,
very, for
like hospital sick?
No.
Oh, okay.
She's been able to keep fluids down for a little while.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought we were revealing something.
No.
Wait, what?
An illness. Like, her and my aunt are both very sick right now. And
I get it.
It's like, I don't think I'm weak. I don't think I can physically keep your kids.
Sure.
So we're having to cancel our plans. But then I was talking to your wife last night. I actually saw her in the supermarket.
We ran into her.
Because we had a plan. We were going out. We're going to go down to Pittsburgh. And we didn't need to have dinner plans for the kids because they were going to my mom's. That fell through. So now I was going out to get food for the weekend.
Yeah.
And so I saw your wife there. And I was explaining the situation.
Sure.
And so this morning, talking to you, you're like, hey, we want to take your kids tonight.
Yeah.
And my first instinct was, I don't want to burden you. I don't want to burden you with my kids. Honestly, not that my kids are a burden, but just I don't want to put you out. Because,
well, okay. So this is the other side of that story, if you don't mind me saying, is so Sarah called me last night. She ran into you, and she's like, yeah, their babysitting plans fell through. I think we should keep the kids so they could still do their thing. And I said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And I'm like, I'll call Zach and just reinforce that with him. So I called you twice. And both times your phone rang twice and then went to voicemail. I'm like, he knows that I'm going to offer help and he doesn't want me to offer help. Because I know how you are. You're like, I don't want to burden anybody. I knew you weren't trying to I knew it wouldn't be like you're purposely ignoring me or anything. But you're like, but I don't.
My phone didn't ring, honestly. Yeah, what happened.
But I also know your mentality on things is like, no, it's all right. It's like, we'll make this work. Yeah. We'll make this work.
That's just the way we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So today, you offered that. And so I talked to Laura, and part of the whole circle of being the light of Christ is then also accepting help.
Yeah.
Because if no one accepts it ever, how are you going to do what God wants you to do?
Yeah, you're also robbing somebody of blessing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I have to come to grips with that, and just in my own heart that
sure,
you gain blessing by doing something, but you also have to have the person willing to accept that blessing.
Exactly.
That the original person can be blessed by God.
I just gained 2 more mulchers for this week.
Yeah, you got mulching project.
That's the only reason I was taking them. Like, putting them to work. No, I'm just kidding. That's not
and we have other friends as well that were willing to
do the same
thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got calls and we got texts, heard the situation. Hey, we're willing to watch your kids for you, and all of these great things.
Yep.
It makes you feel very loved, but at the same time, I'm thinking, no, I'm not doing that. I don't need your help. Like, I appreciate you. I love you guys so much.
I'll make it work by myself.
Yeah, that's just the kind of thing that I have. So I guess God's been working on my heart that, all right, you pour out into everybody, and they accept it from you. You need to do the same for other people who are trying to help you as well. And so I appreciate you doing.
Oh, buddy, yeah, absolutely.
And so I guess that's what I've been working on as well. And I'm sure there's people out there just like me that hate to be a burden on someone.
Absolutely. I mean, there's plenty of times where I don't ask for help because it's the same thing. It's like, I don't want to put this on somebody else. But I've been having the same realization, like, hey, we have to be like, if we're going to say that we're, doing what Christ has called us to do, we have to allow others to do what Christ is calling them to do.
Yeah.
Because, we're robbing them of the opportunity the Holy Spirit's placed on their hearts to do something. So if somebody offers something up,
yeah,
think about it in those terms. Like, it's probably because the Holy Spirit prompted their hearts to do it, not
right. Yeah.
like, oh, they're just doing this because they feel obligated to. I was like, no. We love you and we want to help. So,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this is like this. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that was basically it. Just thanks again for taking the kids.
It's my pleasure, man. You didn't need to publicly thank me. To all 5 people that are listening to this,
just our wives.
It's just our wives. And but no, it was but it's those kind of things though that it really stuck out to me. It's like I want to be that. Down the road when I have some young guy that is just trying to figure out his life in ministry, and he's struggling, and I'm and I've been in it for 20, 30, potentially even 40 years at that point.
Yeah, you're already old.
I'm already, I'm 12, I'm, almost 15 years into doing ministry here at New Life. It's like I have, God's given me a lot of areas of growth and made changes in me and opportunities to grow as a believer. Like, that's wisdom that can be imparted to somebody else. I want to be that to somebody, and have that same heart for them, like that love that is the love of the Father for us. Like, I saw that in Louie's eyes, and I'm like, I want to be that to somebody. It doesn't have to be somebody much younger than me or anything like that, but that should be our hearts for anyone. Our heart breaks for the broken, not they really need to try harder and do better. It's like, wow, look at you, like Mr. Perfect. You can pick out everybody else's problems. That's really messed up.
Yeah.
Like, no, I want to be that to somebody. But that was like one of the big key moments. And I'm like, and that was, like I said, it was not a moment that they planned for. That was just a moment that happened. There's so many other teaching moments that I felt were fantastic, and like just how God aligns everything ultimately for his glory, but to bring more people into the fold. It was really interesting. So Brooke Ligertwood.
Yeah.
Ligertwood.
Yeah. One that's
Brooke Fraser
from Hillsong.
From Hillsong, who wrote songs like Desert Song and Hosanna early.
Yeah.
Like, we learned, she's not even 40 yet. So when she wrote those songs, she was like 24, 23, something like that. She did a message. It was actually the last message of the whole conference. And she was talking about just, God, there are no mistakes in it. Like, God has a plan in place for every little thing in history. Like, and she was talking about just the line of people that it was like God used like different evangelists and speakers, and a certain person got ill, so another person had to step in. All these generations that would go down to eventually like leading her one example was all these things that led over 100 or 200 years that led to eventually Billy Graham having the opportunity to hear the gospel and become a believer and then preach to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. Like, God does not waste opportunities. Everything he does is intentional. And it's that reminder of like every single one of our lives, there's past generations of people that came to know Christ that allowed us to know Christ, and we owe it to the next generation to continue that chain, right? It's almost like, going through a fast food line, and you get up to the line, it's like, oh, the person paid in front of you kind of thing. And it's like, that's so nice. But the idea is that, okay, they paid for you, now you pay for them. And so you keep that chain going, even though I was an idiot one time. They had this, like, it was during the pandemic when everybody's trying to be nice to each other. And they're like, yeah, the person in front of you paid for you. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I left. Yeah. I'm not thinking like, oh, this is a chain thing. Yeah. Because I like read about it. Like, there was like this thing where people were doing that at different, places of business, just to like show kindness in a difficult time. But like, there's a truth to that. We can squander it, or we can lean into it and understand, like, yeah, God's got a plan every single step of the way. everything has intention. So anyway, I mean, once again, this is just one other thing. We're getting long at this point, but it was so cool. It was such a great, like I said, it really restored a lot of, I've been doing car work the past few days. And the thing is, I one of the things that I was working on was a seized like pin on a brake, which just like destroyed my rotor and brakes, right? And the thing that it needed, like, it wasn't any expensive part. It was a bottle of $2 grease, right? Like that little bit of grease greased up that pin and it fixed the whole thing. Like sometimes we need to look for those opportunities to just get that little bit of something that will keep, the engine moving, the car rolling, whatever the case might be. Like don't just give up. Continue to push forward and find new ways for God to inspire you. Yeah. That's it was really good. It was really good, man.
Good.
It's really good. I think my brain's done now.
Your Benadryls.
It's completely taken my mind. So next week we have a really special episode. We are so excited about it. It's going to be a long episode. We have a lot of fun things. No, we're bringing a lot of fun things to the table next week. We're bringing back a well-loved game. We got clips of the past year.
I got to find my favorite Steve clips.
And I got to find my favorite Zach moments. And I mean, there's and probably a whole section of just wheezing. I'm assuming my wheeze laugh is going to make its triumphant return as it does every single week. So until then, I'm Steve.
I'm Zach.
And we will see you next time. God bless.
Bye-bye. Bye.